So when the world feels like it's totally falling apart, when crisis after crisis just keeps piling up, where do you even begin to look for hope? Do we find it by trying to build a better world with our own two hands? Or is it found in something else? We're going to dig into that very question, and we're going to do it by looking at one single absolutely chaotic year.
Yeah, welcome to 1968. And get this is just January. You've got a U.S. embassy under fire, a political uprising in Prague, a massive earthquake, a plane crash with atomic bombs on board, an assassination attempt. I mean, it really felt like the world was spinning completely out of control. It was a time that was desperately, desperately crying out for some kind of hope.
But all this chaos, it wasn't just random violence. It was really a symptom of something much deeper. People all over the globe were searching, demanding a different kind of future, a new way forward. And this wasn't some isolated thing. We're talking about a global movement, the Revolution of '68. From Paris to Germany and beyond, students and workers were in the streets. And it was all fueled by this incredibly powerful and honestly really appealing idea that we, humanity, could and should build a perfect world on our own. Just tear down all the old broken systems and build a brand new utopia. And right there, you've got this huge clash of ideas. In the middle of all this revolutionary fire, you had two totally different visions for what hope even means. You had the political dream of a man-made paradise, and you had a much older, theological kind of hope. So, this revolutionary hope was spelled out really clearly by thinkers like Ernst Bloch. For him, the goal wasn't just to sit around and understand the world. No, it was to get your hands dirty and actively create a better one, a world that doesn't even exist yet. It's a really attractive idea, right? It puts all the power to create a perfect future right into our hands. Hope becomes the engine of progress, the fuel for the revolution. Okay, so when you put them side by side, you can really see how different these two paths are. Utopian hope is horizontal. It's all about changing things out here in the world. Governments, economies, social structures. But Christian hope, the kind theologians like Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict, talked about, that's vertical. It's focused on the internal change of the human heart and its connection to God. One is all about human power, the other is about God's grace. And then, bam, right in the middle of all this revolutionary chaos in 1968, the founder of Opus Dei, Josemaría Escrivá, gives a homily that goes in the complete opposite direction. I mean, this quote is just a stark contrast. It's not a call to arms to build a utopia. It's a call to total surrender, to trust in something way beyond our own efforts. But, and this is super important, Escrivá was adamant that this kind of hope is not some passive, lazy excuse to check out. It is not a reason to ignore problems or put off changing your own life. He even calls out the idea that it's just some kind of easy poetry or a utopian daydream. For him, this had to be real. It had to be grit. All right, so if that's what it isn't, then what is it? What's the foundation of this other kind of hope? To really get it, we're going to look at how this idea builds, connecting Escrivá's thoughts from '68 with Benedict XVI's reflections decades down the road. Fast forward a few decades, Benedict XVI looks back on the modern world and makes this honestly pretty shocking claim. He says that the big crisis of faith we see everywhere isn't just about intellectual doubts. He says at its very core, it's a crisis of hope, specifically Christian hope. The two for him are completely tied together. So he basically diagnosed why these big utopian projects of the 20th century, like Marxism, ultimately ran out of steam. Why did they fail? Well, he said their whole diagnosis was wrong. They thought, hey, if you just fix the economy, if you just rearrange society, you fix people. But this way of thinking, pushed to its extreme, forgets about human freedom, about the human heart, about the reality of evil. And he puts it so clearly right here. You could create the most perfect economic system imaginable, but that's not going to heal a person from the inside. Real, lasting change has to deal with the whole person, not just their bank account. So, if this hope isn't about building some big political utopia, does that mean you just, sit around and wait for heaven? Not at all. Actually, it's the total opposite. For both Escrivá and Benedict, this inner hope is the most powerful motivation you could have for taking action, right here, right now. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's kind of a path. It kicks off with a personal encounter with God, something that gives you a solid foundation of certainty. Then, that relationship starts to change you from the inside out. And this is where Escrivá's big idea comes in. You take that inner change and you pour it into your ordinary life, your job, your family, your boring errands, and you turn it all into something meaningful. The result? You start to become a source of peace in a world of chaos, reacting with calm instead of with hate or fear. And this is the really radical idea, right? The most profound spiritual life isn't saved for these big, dramatic, heroic moments. Nope. It's found right in the middle of your messy, ordinary, everyday life. It's about finding the supernatural in the supermarket, not just in a cathedral. Okay, but what keeps you going when you mess up? What fuels this whole thing day after day? It's this one simple idea: mercy. This simple, incredible line from Escrivá, which Pope Francis would later echo, is the engine of hope. It means you can always, always start over. Failure is never the final word because forgiveness is always on the table.
Okay, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. How do all these small daily acts of hope actually stick together? This is where Benedict XVI's idea of the great hope ties it all up.
Think about it. We all run on little hopes to get through the day, right? Hope for a good day at work, hope that a loved one feels better, hope for a relaxing weekend. But Benedict argues that these little hopes are like small boats. Without a big, solid anchor, the great hope, they'll just get tossed around and eventually sink. For him, that great hope is God, the one who gives meaning and purpose to all our smaller worldly goals. But how do you even see a hope that big? He says you see it reflected in other people, in the lives of those who really figured out how to live well, the saints. They're like nearby stars that reflect the light of the ultimate sun, showing us the way. They prove that a life of hope is actually possible. And this is where it all comes together so beautifully. You see this amazing parallel across the decades, both Escrivá right in the thick of 1968 and Benedict looking back on the modern world in 2007. They end their thoughts on hope by pointing to the exact same guiding star. They both see Mary as the ultimate human example of hope. Spes nostra, our hope. Stella Spei, the star of hope, the one person who lived this virtue perfectly. So, as we try to navigate our own turbulent times, it really leaves us with a question. Whether it's a political dream, a personal goal, a specific person, or a divine promise, when everything else feels uncertain, what is the great hope that's actually guiding you? What's your star?